who I think got in touch with us maybe a week or two back, and it's just today is the day we've managed to sort out a conversation with her. This is all about funerals and everything that's going on or not going on in and around them in this coronavirus crisis. Dawn Kemp is from Grimsby. She's a celebrant and joins us on the show. How are you, Dawn?
I'm very well, David. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you. What are you from your profession? What are you making of all this?
Well, certainly things have changed a great deal over the period that we've had lockdown. And I think initially, when lockdown was introduced, there was a lot of confusion and maybe a little bit of overreaction, and people weren't aware of the choices that they could have in their funerals. And different chapels, different crematoria were allowing different numbers of people. Some were saying curtains could be opened, some were saying they had to be closed, and it was all very confusing. But I think what's happened now is we've got to a point where we know what the government guidance is, and we're starting to think about reframing funerals as something different rather than something that's less than went before, and letting people know what their choices are. So it is still possible to have a really meaningful and poignant and beautiful ceremony. It's just not going to be quite the same as the traditional one we'd always expected before.
So what are you seeing now? What can people do now? Are you doing any funerals?
Yes, I am, but they're often a little bit different. In terms of what the funeral looks like in chapel, obviously with social distancing, far fewer people are allowed. So you're seeing a chapel with maybe 10 seats only spaced out. There's no limousines that people come in. There's often fewer flowers. Sometimes you have to close the curtain in chapel. So from that point of view, it looks different. And the way in which I work with the family has had to change. Usually I would go and visit the family in their own home, and we'd spend a good couple of hours talking together, finding out what they wanted, and I'd gather all the stories about the deceased. Obviously, I can't visit homes anymore, so now I'm dealing with people over the phone, or we're having video meetings as well. So it feels quite different. And in chapel, some people are turning up wearing masks and wearing gloves, so it does look quite surreal. And I think if it's a small family you're dealing with, it can actually feel nicer, it can be more intimate. But if it's a large family, they've got to make those decisions about who can actually go to the ceremony, who do we leave out, because only immediate family are allowed. So the wider family and the friends can't be there. And so I think for that reason, some people are saying, well, let's not have a funeral in chapel. Let's maybe have a direct cremation or just a very small service. And then later on, we'll have a really big celebration of life. We'll have a memorial when we know we can get together and we can do it properly, whatever properly is for that family.
Yeah, well, I lost my mum during this, not to coronavirus, and I've mentioned it on the show before. We just had a direct cremation, and we just popped up to the car park in the Crem, three of us, to sort of say bye to at least have a presence. But we're going to take all the kids and the grandkids to Glasgow, where my mum was born, and have a coach tour and a night and a meal and chuck her in the Clyde, metaphorically, if you see what I mean. So we're going to do that. Do you think people's attitudes to death are going to change post this crisis?
I think they are, because it's forced us to confront the reality of death, because we all know that it's actually maybe just a few streets away for most of us now. I'm very much interested in the concept of the death positive movement, which is if we get people to talk about death and demystify it, it becomes less frightening. And we start to plan and think about the choices that are right for us. So maybe we'll go back to a time that how things were over 100 years or so, where death was very much part of life. Whereas I think in recent times it's become something hidden and medicalised. It's something that death care professionals deal with in hospital, not something that's in the bosom of the home or the community. So I think people will get over that taboo and start to talk about death a bit more openly. That would be one of the nice and positive things to come out of this awful situation that we're in. So I'm hoping it will make people talk, record the wishes that they want, and just get it out in the open a bit more.
I agree with you. Dawn, it's nice to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Dawn Kemp, who's a celebrant in Grimsby. It's more and more people who maybe, I know these are exceptional circumstances, going for celebrants rather than, the traditional people, the vicar or whoever, to lead